Greetings, citizens! Hero of heroes, champion of champions, and lover of lovers. Justiguy has arrived. Last time on Dragonball Super, we talked about the character designs of the first two original story arcs of Dragon Ball Super and how designs alone can potentially make a character's role all too predictable. And it was all done for the sake of tearing apart and into the designs of the new gods of destruction. Today, we're going to be expanding on that topic and then taking in further information that has been released about these gods to theorize just how important the new gods of destruction and their respective universes will be. This video won't just be looking at character designs, however. Today, we're going to be looking at how you too can use the bare minimum given out long before these episodes started airing to figure out a lot of what was going to come before it even began coming. So, without any further delays and nary a cheesy joke to break the ice in sight, let's get this video and this episode of Dragonball Super on the road! For those of you who would rather not sit through my going through the designs of the new gods of destruction one by one, but still would like to see what's up here, I encourage you to skip ahead to this part of the video. There's no hard feelings, and I'm pretty sure you'll still get something out of it if you go there. And for those of you who'd like to stick around, we now return you to your regularly scheduled programming. Now, as I was saying last time, one immediate thing that stands out to me right away about these new designs is, well, a few of them just clearly don't seem like they would be easy to translate to the marketing side of the franchise. That might seem like it's a minor thing to some of you, but Dragon Ball Super is, without a doubt, a series that is absolutely being affected by how characters can be merchandised, marketed, and sold. This is why Goku and Vegeta eventually abandoned the designs that, for a while, seemed like they would become their new standards, as it's undoubtedly easier to just use what they have been for years than to suddenly try to sell new designs that are only for Super. It's also why Goten and Trunks haven't aged at all since the Buu saga, despite the fact that, believe it or not, they should be older than Gohan was at the Cell games. And that's not even mentioning what's going on with poor Marin over there. I mean, God. Therefore, it's always important to keep marketing in mind when looking at new designs for this series. If it's obvious that someone can't sell, then they probably aren't intended to. That's not necessarily a universal rule, but you can usually get a pretty good idea. In any case, with that and with everything we talked about last time in mind, let's get down to business, shall we? First off, there are two gods of destruction in particular that immediately stand out to me, and I just have to bring them up before I do any of the others. These two gods are Universe 5's Arak and Universe 10's Ramush. Now, I know a lot of us were hoping for something really special out of Universe 10's God of Destruction after how relevant that universe was in the last story arc. But Universe 10's God of Destruction shares an unfortunate problem with Universe 5's that makes me really hesitant to think about how relevant they can be in the future.
But Justiguy,
someone in the crowd asks.
What could they possibly have in common?
Well, citizens, you see, the truth is, they've got really big heads, okay? They've got really big heads. You want me to spell it out? They've got really big heads. All right. Look, no, before anyone gets offended, just hear me out on this one, okay? Okay. The fact is, compared to the usual size of a Dragon Ball character, the kind that fights and is relevant to action scenes and all that, their heads are just, well, they're bigger than normal. Noticeably. And that may not sound like something that matters, but give Toriyama some credit here. The main reason Goku grew up back in the day was because he wanted a properly proportioned body for fight scenes as the series grew more action-oriented. So, look, Toriyama may have his faults, and I do think he does, and a lot of them that don't get called out on nearly enough, but I like to think that even after all these years, he does still at least understand that much about the series. Thinking along those lines, let's try to apply these two designs specifically to video games and toys, and really, just fight scenes in general. While I think it can be done, overall, I think it's kind of hard to do, isn't it? Is it just me? Additionally, we've got Universe 5's Angel's only notable feature being that it looks like he's got Whis' hair, but bent a little. And his Supreme Kai is a little round thing. Overall, it doesn't look like a lot of thought went into these guys. Sorry to say. Though to be quote-unquote fair, despite how important you'd think the reveal of all of these gods of destruction are, and their angels and their Supreme Kai and all that, Super has been really cheap about showing all of the ones that they're not really focusing on right now. And it's kind of sad. So, you know, maybe they actually look super duper awesome and they just don't care enough about showing us to show us.
Point is, overall, I don't have much hope for Universe 5. I could see them being background characters, and maybe they're fighters in the tournament taking charge instead of these guys, but honestly, I can't imagine all three of them would have designs like this if it was the plan to just let their fighters shine. So, not much hope there. At the very least, Universe 10's Ramush is somewhat of a different story. The figure of an elephant is familiar to us, so it can be used to both build a character off of, or used to contrast and mess with our expectations. Combining Ramush with Universe 10's Supreme Kai, Goas, and taking into account how elephants are often viewed with wisdom in mind, perhaps this may be a universe that becomes an ally rather than a foe. Also going in Ramush's favor is the fact that his universe was really relevant to the last arc. And while it also may be too soon to tell, comparatively it seems like his angel has a fairly unique design among the bunch of them that would definitely be at home being used in a game or a merchandise. And considering the angels may well be the strongest characters in the franchise right now, these designs and how they differentiate from each other may actually be the real tells here. Brief shots of both Arak and Ramush have helped to ease the head-to-body ratio somewhat, and while this won't save Arak completely, with that out of the way, that does definitely help out Ramush's case a little more. At the same time, I find it difficult to think that Toriyama wouldn't have thought about Ramush's tusks getting in the way if he was going to be a character that was to be featured prominently. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but if Ramush has a future in video games ahead of him, I can't help but worry about those tusks. Regardless, as far as Universes 5 and 10 are concerned, the only one I see much hope for is Universe 10. That said, I do like both of these designs, to be clear. I actually really like Ramush's, so I'd be really happy to be wrong about him. And I'd say more about what I want, but I don't want to fill this up with that when we've got, 8 more of these to talk about, so yeah, let's move on. After the gods of Universes 5 and 10, the next two gods of destruction that really stood out to me the most would be those of Universes 1 and 3. And, oh my god, could they not be any more different. You could practically put one inside of the other and still have one fighter left when all was said and done. Now, Universe 1's god of destruction, Iwan, is a small creature. The first shots I saw of him led me to believe that he was actually a really teeny tiny character. But now as we see him standing next to Universe 1's Angel and Supreme Kai, I believe he could probably pass for around Krillin's height, more or less. While I can definitely imagine how Dragon Ball Super this series could potentially utilize Iwan, Dragon Ball Super the franchise with video games and all that other stuff, I'm not sure. That's another thing entirely. I can see Super going in a similar direction as I have with Zen-O and making Iwan into a cute sort of character, with his angel maybe like a caretaker of sorts. His angel is kind of odd looking if you compare him to the rest. Even then, that wouldn't necessarily translate to a character that's important to Dragon Ball as it is today in Super, so I don't know. I'm not sure I see it with this guy. Even if I'm dead wrong about his personality, I can only see fight scenes either being gimmicky or cutesy or just, full of beam spam, and at that point his design really wouldn't matter, but still, his design wouldn't really matter. Why bother? Who cares what he looks like, and then it's not really a selling point. And if you think that's fine and they can sell characters based on how they fight over how they look, think about this. It's actually the opposite. Even before we ever saw Whis in a fight, and we still really haven't, he was in games. Even before we saw Champa and Vados ever fight, which, again, we still really haven't, they were in games. That's kind of how it works. Because they had designs that worked. That's all there is to it, really. Iwan and some of these other guys, like I've talked about already, may not work. Maybe. I hope they do, but I don't think they do. And that then leads me to think that their role in the story will probably match up with how much they intend to push these characters outside of the story. But who knows? I think I'm getting a little ahead of myself. We've still got quite a few more of these to talk about. If nothing else, at least Iwan's Supreme Kai does look pretty normal, so he's got that going for him. Regardless, I think that's enough Iwan for one video. So, for now, we'll be moving over to the complete opposite end of the spectrum as Iwan to check out Moscow, the hulking robot of the gods of destruction. And honestly, I don't have a lot to say about Moscow. The fact is, I think I've already said plenty about giant hulking robot figures in my last video on this subject. And as far as the marketing aspect goes, well, how many of you are enjoying Megetta and Xenoverse? Oh, what's that? None of you are? Because you didn't get in? Oh, well, don't worry. I'm sure things will be totally different with this robot. For sure. That all said, we are going to revisit this god of destruction. There's a reason. Some of you may already know it. So for now, just consider my preliminary thoughts on this guy to be, not very likely. but we're coming back to him. In the meantime, Moscow does have 2 points going in his favor. First off, similar to Universe 1's Angel, Universe 3's Angel doesn't look like he's one that they'd want to push as hard as they have been, say, Whis and Vados. However, similarly to how Zamasa's design differed from the other Supreme Kai's designs, this Angel looks more appropriate for the battlefield compared to Universe 1's, and that might not seem like much, but when they've introduced a total of 12 of them now, I think that's going to be a big deal unless they really do intend to start putting out games with all of them together, you know what I mean? That would be pretty cool. I hope they do. But, we'll see. And speaking of Supreme Kais, Moscow's is actually one that stands out. While it definitely doesn't scream, hey, look at me, I'm a fighter, it's definitely still a design that is not exaggerated and still unique all on its own. It's a memorable and good design, I think. At the very, very least, it's a design that will have people going, hey, it's that Kai in the glasses. So, taking these two things into account, I think, Moscow's got some stuff going for him, even if his own design is, where it is. After those three, as far as the gods of destruction themselves are concerned, I don't really have as much to say about them individually. Universe 9 is already playing a part in the tournament, so discussing them right now is kind of pointless. Additionally, I already mentioned how much I like this universe's Supreme Kai in my last video, and as they're already in the show at this point, I can't really judge them based on not being in it as easily, can I? And as far as their angel is concerned, well, he's kind of slick looking, I guess, but, no problems there. As for the two other humanoid gods of destruction, or rather, god of destruction and goddess of destruction, well, for starters, they've got no issues in the size department like a lot of the other ones we've talked about so far. Meanwhile, their designs are unique and stand out a lot from other human characters, but not to the point that you would say that they don't belong, with humans or with the other gods of destruction. Sure, Universe 11's God of Destruction has a kind of bizarre design. At the same time, it's that bizarre design that I feel is a huge point in his favor. It's sort of like how Beerus' design was kind of bizarre, at least for, when he was introduced. Hellas, meanwhile, is the only goddess of destruction, so while it would be easy to see them just writing her out as soon as they introduce her, I'd like to think that they wouldn't do that. And as far as their staff goes, well, let's face it, Universe 11's Angel is a waifu in the making, and combined with Vermount, well, TLDR, I'll be shocked if this universe plays a small role. But just in case you're not convinced, get a load of their Supreme Kai. He's handsome and short and really not unlike our own Supreme Kai, so overall, with every single box ticked, I think this universe is one to look out for certain. Similarly, Universe 2's Angel is pretty stereotypically handsome actually, which actually immediately makes me want to hope he's going to be really, really evil. But that's besides the point. As for the Supreme Kai, he's a smaller, older fellow, but honestly, they've got the two main moles covered here, and the Supreme Kai isn't odd looking like some of the other ones, so I think it's safe to say that this universe is a good bet. All in all, I think those two universes are definitely going to be prime contenders. And with that, we are just left with universes 4, 8, and 12. Honestly, just based on the gods alone, I'd say they look fine. Universe 12's Jin is the most awkward looking of the remaining three, particularly with that mouth of his. At the same time, there's something weirdly reminiscent about Filler and GT, about his design. You know what I mean? It's the kind of design that Dragon Ball just seems to gravitate towards when they need something cool for those kinds of situations. It's like, it's a cool design, but cool in a way that it's just gonna be super PyCon or something. Well, regardless, let's check out his support staff. Oh boy. Well, while the god may look fine, his Supreme Kai and Angel both make me feel pretty concerned. Definitely not characters I feel like they think the audience will be spending too much time with. Now, Liquor looks pretty good though, as does his Angel, though his Supreme Kai does look kinda dopey. All in all though, I do think I can give this universe a potential pass. If anything, would it make sense to say that I think Liquor might look too good? Most of the gods of destruction don't look that traditionally good. The angels, the Supreme Kai are one thing, but the gods of destruction have generally strayed away from that. That's not to say they look bad, just not this, normal. I'm genuinely curious about this character. I think it could go both ways with him. But that said, I feel like knowing Toriyama, this character could have been made because they wanted one that looked, traditionally, generically good to throw people off. But who knows? And last but not least is Universe 4's Kitela. For some reason, Kitela's design reminds me a lot of Beerus. It's simple and it's effective, and I like it. In every picture we have of him before he even does anything, he's got character. You know, his Supreme Kai fits in with most of the other Supreme Kais, or the ones I'm deeming important ones anyway. And his Angel, while a bit exaggerated, isn't so much so to the point that you wouldn't be able to take him seriously. And with those out of the way, that's all of them. All in all, I really do think you could have had a pretty good guess as to where this arc was going to go just based on these designs. The fact is, as some of you know, it's already started going there. Regardless, as it's not there yet, we've still got some things to talk about. You see, Just a Boys and Just a Girls, there's one more thing we need to add into this conversation that might spoil the entire arc before it even starts. So first, I'd like to welcome back everyone who skipped to this part of the video, and introduce the last bit of information that'll close the door once and for all on which universes will be the important ones to follow in this Universal Survival arc. And again, sadly, I didn't get this video out as fast as I wanted to, so some of this you probably already know anyway, but I'm going to tell you how you could have known a lot sooner. So here's the thing about the new gods of destruction. The missing link, if you will. Only a couple of them were actually designed by Akira Toriyama. Of all the new gods of destruction, the only ones that can join our feline overlords, Beerus and Champa, are Universe 4's Kitera and Universe 9's Sidra, the dwarven, shirt-wearing deviant. None of the other gods of destruction were designed just by Akira Toriyama, and only 2 more even had his involvement. The other 2 gods of destruction to have Toriyama's involvement in them were those of Universe 2 and Universe 11. These 2 were designed by Toriyama and Toyotaro both together. Toyotaro, meanwhile, designed all of the other gods of destruction himself. By the way, for those unaware, Toyotaro is a former doujin artist. Believe it or not, but Toyotaro is actually responsible for a series based off of the infamous Dragon Ball AF rumors. He's since then become akin to Toriyama's successor. And before taking on Dragon Ball Super's manga and working alongside Akira Toriyama on the series, he's worked on multiple manga based on video games and so on for the Dragon Ball franchise. If you aren't already now, then you'd better start watching out for the name Toyotaro. On that same subject, you may remember that earlier in the video I mentioned that there was something I wanted to bring up about one of the gods of destruction. You see, Toyotaro has referenced the Dragon Ball GT character Lude, a supposed god of destruction, in his work before, and it is likely that our new god of destruction, Moscow, may be a reference to him. With this in mind, our new god of destruction may have some kind of preferential treatment in the series going forward. Or, because this universe's god of destruction was going to be a very, very minor character, they figured, what the heck, let's throw in an inside joke. Anyway, if we set Moscow aside, you might notice that if we include Beerus and Champa, all 6 gods of destruction that Akira Toriyama has worked on are pairs with each other. After the obvious pair of Beerus and Champa's universes 7 and 6, we've got the 2 new Toriyama designed deities in their universes, 4 and 9, followed by the 2 that were designed by the 2 artists together in their universes, 2 and 11. Taking all these things into account, adding in the fact that 2 of those universes have already gotten some degree of focus in this new arc, and considering pretty much all of these designs, while still kind of outlandish, aren't too large, small, or oddly shaped that you couldn't market them or easily add them into games, I feel like it's pretty safe to say that the 4 new universes to watch out for in this tournament will be 4, 9, 2, and 11. Maybe not in that order, but still to some degree. More than anything, the fact that Toriyama was involved in their design says to me that there is very likely some kind of plan for the 4 of them more than there is the rest. Maybe not even a particularly plot-heavy plan. Maybe one of these teams is going to be a joke team that he's really proud of for a gag fight, because the man really does love his gag fight. But I'd be genuinely surprised if more than half of these either don't make it through the first rounds or aren't the ones that get focus and fight, especially after what we've learned recently. And what about the other universes, you ask? Why, that's what the first part of this video was for. Just the boys and just the girls. Yeah, at least that's what I would have said up until episode 80 went and proved me right on the money before I could go and get all this stuff ready to go. And then suddenly we have the announcement that some universes are exempt from all this to begin with. You know what though? That still works for us. You see, as of the announcement, universes 1, 12, 5, and 8 don't even have to participate in the tournament if they don't want to. And I really kinda doubt they're gonna want to. And oh, wouldn't you look at that? By cutting these 4 out of the picture, that knocks out quite a few of the problem children that we were describing earlier right off the bat. Our big-faced friend from Universe 5 that we were talking about earlier? Well, he's not competing, so we don't have to worry about him. Our little bearded buddy from Universe 1? Nope, he's gone too. Oh, but what about I can't believe he's not filler? Well, guess he's filler. And I guess that fox really was too good to be true after all. So really, by following the character designs and who made them, none of this is actually all that surprising. I think the real surprise here is that our robot friend got left in, but, like I said, there's possibly a reason for that. What's more, this also reduced the number of competing universes down from 12, which would have made the tournament a little awkward, to 8, which would be just right. But hey, maybe my guesses are just lucky. It's not like they mean anything now because they're coming out so late. Regardless, I'd like to think that this video does show that Toei did give us a lot more than they thought they did early on. Well, that's all just my take on all this. Feel free to tell me what yours is in the comments below. And at this point, I think it is very safe to say that my work here is done, citizens. If you liked the video, if you hated it, if you got anything out of it at all, please let me know.
And so with that all said and done, I believe it's time for Justiguy to blast off. Citizens, until we meet again, farewell!